fast. I will tell you that. I know we got a late start here, but I'm going to go through this pretty fast. I'm not going to screw around with any long pitches or anything like that. So I want to make sure that you get this in your hands because I think that it is something actionable. Here's my thought on this. Dave and I were talking about this. Dave is my co-host. I'll show him here. Um, we were talking about this and we're thinking it's like, okay, let's get this out first, this mini workshop with the rank ready checklist. And then hello, Dave, by the way.
Brian.
And then let's go ahead and do follow-up workshops in order to go through it in more detail and really get into some of the other things like troubleshooting and maximizing. Um, I will tell you right up front is both Dave and I have services that you absolutely do want. You don't know it yet, maybe, but this mini workshop is not designed to pitch, but we will go ahead and talk about those at the very end if you're interested. If not, you walk away with the rank ready checklist, and yeah, let's go ahead and dive in. So. Um, All right. So here's my promise. Here's what I think. What's in it for you? All right. By the end of this workshop, I want you to understand what we call A9 rank signals. This is similar to the concept of search rank factors that I've talked about multiple times in the past, but these are basically the group of things with your product listings, with your promotions, anything that signal to the A9 algorithm that you want your product to be ranked higher for specific search terms. I've gotten really good at that because, in part, because I took the time to develop quite a bit of technology that has created this. In my humble opinion, it is the most advanced software in the Amazon space when it comes to ranking on Amazon. Um, and I truly believe that I can beat anybody on rank on Amazon. I'm going to just throw that out there. Cocky? Yes. Um, I want to talk about as far as like why A9 expects different rank signals for each product niche. We didn't even know that when we started our research 2 years ago, and we found out that it is definitely the case. I'll go ahead and talk about a little bit what that means, and then of course go through the rank ready checklist. You're familiar with the retail ready or retail readiness kind of checklist. Do I have a listing? Do I have images? uh, do I have reviews? All these kind of things. You already know the retail ready. Otherwise, you probably have a product that's listed, or depending on your role, you may have a client that is, right? All right. So let me get a couple of ground rules out of the way here really quick. To This is private. I am recording it, but I probably won't be publishing it. I may reconsider as far as those who are actually in attendance today. If you signed up and you didn't see it, sorry if you're not here. Um, I've got a few assumptions, and Dave, if you don't mind, if you see any chat feedback or anything that you want to shout out and interrupt me, feel free to do so.
Absolutely. I'll be watching.
I want to keep this moving fast. I was hoping for a half an hour, but obviously I'm 12 minutes into it here and haven't gotten to the meat of it yet, which I know every single one of you want, so I will get there. That's a frustration Dave and I have had about recent other webinars out there is like, oh God, 45 minutes and you haven't even gotten to anything yet. So I'm going to get to it here in the next couple of minutes here. You may or may not be aware that I personally have my Amazon career has helped brands move over 3.5 billion. It's probably getting close to 4 billion on products on Amazon. Dave has had well over 9,000 launches. And just kind of back up just for a quick second. So just kind of touch on this, like our companies that we have now. I'm with DeepM.ai, company I co-founded 2 years ago, specifically focusing on organic ranking on Amazon. We built a fantastic software that pulls in 30, 40 million data points, nothing that your team is going to be able to do. And it analyzes it in depth. And I'm going to go through what our findings are. This is based off of our last 100 case studies, as far as the research that has shown us and the results that we've gotten. That's how this rank ready checklist came about. So there's some history behind it, a couple of years of history on this. Our software and our system is designed specifically for brands that want to rank higher on Amazon. We can show you exactly how to do that, why your competition's beating you on every single element, and we can essentially go into minutia, into precision rank optimization. Dave actually has a complementary service. So he focuses on rank acceleration. So how do one of the aspects of ranking well on Amazon is going to be to it has to do with sales velocity, right? There, you can certainly use PPC. PPC's gotten really expensive. I know. I was in that space for years and years and years. And so I shifted over to organic ranking as the better methodology, but you still don't quite get away from some kind of promotion, some kind of increase in the unit velocity relative to your competition. You can do that through a combination of PPC, TikTok, language model indexing, whatever the case is. But one of the fastest things you can do is a rank acceleration service like Dave's Stello Marketing. We can get into that at the end and talk more about it, but he is the catapult to my competitive intelligence and precision rank optimization. So I'll just leave that hang there and we will come back to it at the end for those who want to learn more about how that works. And I can tell you it works phenomenally well. Um, all right. So hopefully you already know that I won't go into my history and detail and projects and all that kind of stuff, but I believe that you're here because what you've done to rank your product previously on Amazon just hasn't worked, or it's had very minimal effect, or you weren't able to keep it there, right? You weren't able to hold it. You weren't able to answer the question, why did this one competitor step in front of me? I can answer that for you. You want to see something unique. You want to see a unique approach to ranking on Amazon and maybe even see if there's a unique solution that you've never seen before and that can take it all off your hands if that's appropriate for you. That, again, I'm going to save that piece of it all the way to the end. I'm not going to pitch you anything specifically. I'm just going to say, hey, here's how you get a hold of Dave. Here's how you get a hold of me. We do have a system that works together quite well, and we're glad to have that conversation. That's our pitch. Hope you enjoyed it. This will probably end abruptly because I don't want to be here at the top of the hour. So near the end, I'll give you the QR code. You can certainly take screenshots all you want. I will give you a QR code in order to download the checklist toward the end. So just keep that in mind. All right, Dave, we're good to go forward.
We're good. Let's
Cool,
rock.
cool. What kind of how many people got in so far?
30 people right now.
All right, that's about what I was expecting. About a quarter usually show up in person when they want to hear the replay later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. You're the golden 30 then. So let's talk about rank signals. What the heck is rank signals? Now, rank signals are things that influence A9. They're data points that Amazon uses to decide, whether or not they're going to rank your product higher. And those can be grouped into different types, different classes. That includes things as far as relevance, in relevance of the product listing to what the shopper's looking for. It can be engagement. Did the customer actually engage and say like, oh, I want to find out more. I want to look into that product listing. Momentum. Did they actually convert on your product? Are you actually growing the number of sales that you have relative to your competition? Is it on specific search terms? Is it across, the a single product? Is it across a product family? Parent, child, siblings, right? Behavioral, as far as how long, some of the things that Amazon keeps more private, and that is things like how long did they hang out and read your product listing. And there's a number of things as far as stability. Stability, I would say, falls more into that retail readiness. Things as far as like, am I in stock? I can tell you, or I should say, Deep M can tell you, specifically for your product niche, whether or not going out of stock is a risk or not a problem for your specific product niche. I'll talk about that later. The idea with rank signals, though, is that each one of these, there's a whole bunch of things that get packed into each one of these boxes. Stability, as an example, stay in stock, keep prices steady. Some of the operational assumptions of you listing your product. Let's say if we're talking about a rank signal stack, right? I'm going to build this up. I'll show you how this goes here. It'll expand out here. But the rank signal stack is a collection of these rank signals. Now, if you imagine your top 10 competitors, we look 300 deep in your product niche, by the way, but let's say you're looking at just the top 10 competitors and you're one of them. The stability, there's going to be a certain weight that A9 wants from stability, from behavior, from momentum, from engagement, from relevance. And that's going to vary from one product to the niche, one product niche to another. So it does vary, and I can explain why that is after these set of slides. And you can imagine, is that okay? If I am, graded like say a score, okay. If I have um, let's say, 0 to 100, I'm at a 70, therefore I'm beating 70, probably if every top 100 competitors are ranked, 1 to 100 and I'm 70, okay, I'm beating 70 of my competitors on this one optimization, on this one signal that A9 is listening to. So, conceptually, the more of these ranked signals that you out optimize your competitors for, which I'm going to help you do today, the more likely that A9 is going to respond in turn and reward you with higher ranking for the individual search terms that you're targeting. I can imagine that you want that, but just to make sure, if we can get some kind of feedback loop, I guess, into the chat on LinkedIn, if we're getting any more comments or any more participation on that, Dave.
Yep. So far, so good.
Okay.
Just Blake saying you're the GOAT in the industry. So I didn't share that. But keep going. This is good.
Laugh like a goat, maybe. No, no, I appreciate that. That's Blake Hilton, is it? Nice.
Yes, it is.
Oh, brother, man, I haven't seen you in a long time. All right. So stability. Okay, that's one. Now let's kind of keep this moving forward, right? Behavioral things like, are you keeping the shoppers on the listing? We don't really have a feedback loop from Amazon, but Amazon is paying attention to it, right? That's more something we can measure off Amazon. Are they exploring? Are they navigating throughout are they, clicking on images? Are they zooming in? Are they watching the videos? Are they navigating to the A plus content? All of these things are the behaviors that shoppers do. Amazon does pay attention. Now, you may not necessarily have a lot of control on that, with exception of maybe keeping the shopper engaged on your product listing by making sure that you're constantly testing compelling copy in your title, your bullet points, your A plus, your description to keep them engaged in the story, right? So that would be an example of how can you improve that piece of it there. But let's say, for instance, let's say you're the number one ASIN, right? Here on the right-hand side, and you outpaced everybody when it came to stability. You outpaced everybody when it came to behavioral. Your momentum, not quite the strongest, not as strong as somebody else, right? Maybe there's a one or two other products that are getting, selling more units. Maybe they've got a lower price, and so they're just moving more units per week. And so you may not be strong on that one, but you're stronger on other aspects, momentum, including things as far as just sales velocity, as an example. And it's always on every single one of these, it's going to be relative to your competition. A lot of you already know the story of, the analogy of, I don't know if analogy is the right word on that, but you put on running shoes in order to beat the person in front of you to outrun the bear. You don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun the person next to you. Very cruel analogy, I guess. But the idea is you don't have to be the fastest runner in everything. Um, you don't have to outrun A9. You don't have to be at a specific, like, I've heard this many times in discussions and stuff like, oh, well, what's a good conversion rate? What's a good click-through rate? It doesn't matter. It only matters what your relative conversion rate is to your competitive set, to the competitors around you. Relative click-through rate, relative title optimization, relative price, relative review velocity, all of those things, right? All relative to what your competition is doing. So a system like DeepM identifies what are those strengths and weaknesses across all your competitors, so you know exactly how much more faster do I need to run on this one thing. Okay. On engagement would be things as far as like click-through rates. Is it all tied back together? Like, are they getting to add to cart? Are they actually checking out, or are they navigating around? Do they put it into their wish list? Those kind of engagements. The biggest thing that we usually start with is, Do you have a relatively high click-through rate compared to your competitors to know whether or not the shoppers are even coming to my listing in the first place? Traffic first, right? As you can see, these start stacking together. Now there's hundreds of these rank signals, but if we group them together into kind of like these broad five here, you can see where they start stacking up. You see how the distance of the leaders gets farther and farther away from those as you go farther down the line. So the more of these individual pieces that you can identify, the more likely, the longer your bar chart is going to get on your particular ASIN. The bigger your stack is, the more you're outpacing everybody overall. Now, each of these are going to be judged differently by A9, depending on what product niche you're in, because some value specific content more than they value the price of your product, for instance, or the how many reviews you have, for instance, right? And so it's going to vary from niche to niche. But as a general practice, what I'm going to do is like, as a general rule, here's the best practices in the rank ready checklist that you can apply regardless of knowing that additional information. Now, the final thing I want to say on this when it comes to rank signals is anytime something changes, let's say, for instance, you were ASIN number one and you were the leader of the pack and you had a couple of these things. Let's say your stability, maybe you had a stock blip one day. You went out of stock for half a day, for instance. Just dropped it down just a little bit as far as your over relative strength to your competitors. Let's say your momentum, the sales velocity, you lost the sales velocity that one day. That also drop down a little bit, right? It's still important to A9, but at the same time, you had a competitor that actually ran a promotion or did a giveaway or something like that, and they accelerated the number of units that they were selling. And what happens is, of course, now all of a sudden you don't have the tallest chart, the tallest bar chart, in the pack. Now you're the second one, and your ranking slips on certain search terms, right? So hopefully conceptually, maybe I can get some ones or zeros in the LinkedIn chat if that made sense. That would certainly help as far as feedback. But the more of these things that you optimize in the rank ready checklist, the more likely you're going to pass more of your competitors, right? You don't
Hey,
need to be
Brian,
perfect at everything.
can I jump in with a really good question that Josh asked? Are these ranked signals equally weighted, or does one have more leverage over the others? Great question.
They have more, yeah. So for instance, in one niche, you might have a title that has a 29% impact or 29% influence on the A9 organic ranking algorithm, right? Um, and then maybe price is 4%, right? Impact, right? And so what we do with DeepM is we usually narrow it down to like, let's say the top 10 or 12 that matter to you. Out of over 100, we're going to boil it down to what's really going to move the needle. In other words, focus most of your effort onto these things. Here's where that makes a difference. If A9 sees in your product niche that only the title and the bullet points truly have a significant influence on your organic ranking, yes, you can refine and optimize all of your content, A plus description, specifications, back end, title, bullets. But from an organic ranking standpoint, if that's the challenge you're trying to overcome, which was what we're talking about today, right? Then where you need to definitely put your split testing effort on and your focus on your optimization might only be most heavily on the title, secondary, maybe on bullet points. Some other product niche, that title might be 15% and the specifications are 22%, right? Content does matter, but it does vary from one niche to another. To emphasize that with a price tag, a commodity item like paper towels, as an example, is going to be high velocity, a lot of units being sold. Typically, lowest price is going to drive a lot of the influence as far as who ranks higher, based off of the fact that it creates a lot more sales. In other words, the shopper, A9 recognizes that the shopper is most influenced by the price of a commodity that's readily available across a lot of sellers. Luxury watches, however, price may not matter at all. But that's when you start getting to behavior of the shopper. A9 sees, oh, they didn't just look at they didn't keep choosing the lowest price on a luxury watch. They actually went in and they studied the reviews, they watched the videos, they studied the images for an extended period of time. Price had a very low impact, almost probably, less than 1% impact on conversion rate and subsequently to A9 ranking. But in a commodity, price may have had a 10, 15% impact because it was recognized by the algorithm as a driving force. So, yes, it absolutely changes as far as how much weight each of those put onto, or how much influence each of those put onto A9. And it does vary from niche to niche. I can tell you, and I can go through and I can do Q&A obviously at the end, but I can tell you that title and bullet points very common that comes up. Certainly 30-day unit velocity versus more long-term unit velocity is more common. Um, Relative conversion rate is by far, is one of the biggest ones. Relative conversion rate, and that can affect price parity. For price parity, and I'll touch on that here in a minute, but let me get into the rank ready checklist. And Dave, let me know if I didn't answer that one correctly or if,
No, while you pulled it up, I'd just like to emphasize what Brian just said. And I've been ranking products for 9 years, and there's always a question, why did this one go faster and this one didn't? Why did this one hold the rank and this one didn't? And I'll tell you, nobody knew the answer to that. Everybody guessed. Well, it's because of the type of sales that came in, or it's because
yeah,
of the title, but nobody knew. And Brian is pulling back the curtain to start to understand that. And so, and the biggest thing, it varies from niche to niche. Like, whoa, what
yeah.
ranks in baby products does not apply exactly to kitchen or electronics. So this is really, really key data that I love. So.
Yeah. We knew when we started this research project 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, that we were going to start pulling. Back then, we were pulling in like maybe 3 to 5 million. We were analyzing. We've got a deep learning model, actual AI, a deep learning model that was developed prior to ChatGPT, that actually goes through and analyzes multivariate combinations of data points throughout all the product listings that we scrape. And we expanded that from the 3 to 5 million data observations and tests that we were doing. We're now up to 20, 30, 40 million, and that varies also by the size of the product niche as well. And we'll continue to expand that out. But it's to put that in human terms, to do that with a human team for a single product niche to do 30 million data points. The common benchmark is that would about take 30,000 man hours. I don't know about you, but I'm not doing that for any of my product niches. Not manually, forget it. But it's good to know that there's a system out there that can, right? And it can tell me exactly what works and why, and constantly monitor my competitors and say, oh, he stepped 1% ahead of you. Here's how you fix it. That's a cool thing to have. Um, all right, so this is the rank rated checklist. I'm going to go through this uh, fairly quickly. I'm not going to go into too much depth because I want to save that for probably a second workshop. I realize it's just way too dense in order to cover in this short period of time. And you can take a screenshot of this if you want, and if that's all you came for, cool, awesome, thank you, have a good day. If not, I've got a actually downloadable version for you, and we can certainly go into more Q&A. But let me walk through this here. When it comes to the first thing, so search term relevance. This one actually is dependent on whether or not you qualified things like your relative conversion rate and your relative sales velocity. But search term relevance, not a big surprise, right? This has to do with things as far as optimizing your title, all your content fields. I'll just say that, all your content fields based off of which search phrases that you are actually targeting. If you are using the classically taught model of, let me use a keyword research tool, a Helium 10, a Jungle Scout, a Data Dive, Data Row, whatever, and you're doing just keyword research and you're saying, okay, here's the top search terms, and I'm going to stuff the title with a bunch of the common, we call them anchors, sometimes it's referred to as the root words. That does work, right? It does work often as far as to get higher visibility, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll convert to a sale once you get there if you do rank higher on it, right? So we want to try to find the best combination where it actually converts well. So search term relevance is great. There's a lot of science optimization science that goes into how to properly optimize a content field like the title based off of terms like keyword density and keyword proximity and word sequence and positioning, and there's things like there's concepts like semantic relevance, semantic exchange, also known as a synonym, if that helps. There's a lot of different things that you can do in order to precisely refine your content optimization, especially if you're trying to go after a specific search phrase that you have a competitive advantage because you looked at the relative conversion rate you benchmark it against your competitors. The first thing I would do when it comes to relative conversion rate, take a look at your brand analytics, your search query performance report at the ASIN level, and calculate what your conversion rate is, your click-through rate is, your relative price, your relative sales velocity, your market share. Those all have a high value as far as determining whether or not you should be going after a search term or not. Similar to the concept with people, of the superpower, right? Do you know what your superpower is? Do you know what your zone of genius is? The idea is that you lean into or you focus on your strengths and you push away as fast as possible those things that drag down your energy, that are a distraction, that create noise, right? Same thing applies when it comes to rank optimization, is you want to focus in on the search phrases where you perform. Now, initially, especially if you've got a young product that's less than a year old, maybe that means that you have to focus in on 5 search terms. Not great, but I would posit that you would want to have a you'd want to win at a smaller level first and then build up from there, which you can, instead of trying to compete head to head on a top search term that everybody else is trying to go after, right? And every niche is different as far as which search terms that everybody's focused in on. Keyword research tools seem to be overused as far as being able to identify what are just because it has search volume doesn't mean it has conversion value to your product. And I know this shouldn't be anything new that you're hearing, but I am overemphasizing it specifically because if you are not in the practice of looking at things like your search query performance reports and all of some of the other reports in order to benchmark how you are, what your relative performance on multiple metrics is at the search term level compared to the rest of your niche, compared to your top 3 competitors, then you are missing a huge opportunity to rank higher on terms that you actually convert on. All right, let me keep it moving forward here. Um, Recent sales velocity. Same kind of thing again, is you want to, well, on this one here, the first thing I would recommend is if you're using Amazon's own, sponsored ads, start with something like if you're selling 10 units a week on a specific search term, not a keyword, but on the search term that is produced, that is matched to that keyword, to that brand ad, to the, whatever, to the automatic campaign, any of those. It's the search term that A9 is actually looking at. And so if you're currently selling through PPC 10 units a week on a specific search term, what can you do in order to increase to 11? You don't need to double it. You don't need to triple it, right? You don't need to go broke trying to expand your PPC. If all you're trying to do is convince A9 that you're moving a little bit faster than you were before, you're selling a little bit more than the guy next to you. That simple test right up front is odd, and you can monitor as long as you're monitoring what your search rank is for each search term that you're going after and you're analyzing. You can see what that change made. Well, you know what? I increased my top of search placement. My top of search impression share is now pro tip 10 to 15%. Top of search impression share is what is a recommendation I would have, right? If you understand the terminology, cool. If not, circle back around with me and I can explain it later. Um, if you simply do a small test like that, right? It may be a little expensive, right? But it's usually expensive because you're only looking at what's the ad spend, what's the ad sales, and you're looking at ACoS, and ACoS is too narrow of a metric to measure the ultimate benefit. You also need to be looking, not jump all the way up to tacos and see how your product is doing. Keep it at the search term level. Combine your advertised search term impression share reporting along with your search query performance brand analytics reporting. Blend those two together, or just look at your search query performance and just see what effect that has. Actually, you need both in order to have the ad spend, but um, you can see where a little bit more effort on ad spend might increase both ad sales and organic search sales. But just bump it just to see, okay, do you get lifted up in rank? Is that enough? Usually just one thing on here is not enough. You have a combination of these checked off. Um, you can go a lot more aggressive, right? If you really need to cover some ground, if you're trying to go from position 40 to position 5, you're not going to get there through PPC alone, right? You've got to optimize everything as far as your content fields. You got to focus in your content into your target search terms that you know you've got a better conversion rate on than your average benchmark competitor. And you can get more aggressive. You can run things like lightning deals, daily deals. You can implement a search find buy giveaway. Talk to Dave on that one. He's a pro at it. 9,000 launches, just a massive amount of experience. Let's see here. Category alignment. I don't want to go into, I'm definitely not going to go into too much detail on this one. Colin Raja has actually had a number of videos on YouTube and LinkedIn talking about how to assess category alignment. There's a number of settings or category product to category assignment fields in Amazon, and they don't always line up with each other. A lot of times they get confused. If you feel like you severely can't move, you've tried everything to optimize, you've gone aggressive on PPC, you've done, lightning deals and everything, you're just not moving the needle. You might be getting held back by a misconfiguration of your product listing. There's a lot of things that can break on the back end, right? I'll get into that on another workshop. But if any of you follow Colin Raji, he definitely goes into things as far as like uh, general ledger codes and browse nodes and item type keywords and product type. And there's a lot of different places to look at to make sure that these are all lined up, right? Even one of those things out of alignment or is turned off or is pointing in the wrong direction can actually create a block from ranking well. So if you've tried everything, in your opinion, maybe go back and look at the basics as far as things like category alignment. Anything I need to know, Dave? We're still
No,
good?
you're cranking. Keep going.
Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, I gotta move fast. Relative click-through rate. This grows and shrinks in popularity from quarter to quarter. Right now, there's a lot of, there's always something that's being hyped because, people are selling things. Um, Relative click-through rate, it does actually, have a benefit. It's not my top four when it comes to organic ranking, but you definitely, if you can improve your relative click-through rate, again, you can observe that through your search query performance, right? Beat a dead horse there. Your relative click-through rate, first of all, beat your average competitive set that is being represented in the search query performance competitors. And then second is you can also look to see what kind of like maybe not the click-through rate, but you can see like click share and purchase share through things like the top Amazon search terms. So you can kind of get a little bit of visibility. Some of those are also available through things as far as like the product opportunity explorer and some of these other reports. Again, if you're not familiar with those, follow up with me afterwards. Oops, sorry. The rest of these, they do have value. Things like historic sales velocity, as far as consistency across, like say 12 weeks or more. Price parity, primarily not because if you're way far out of line, then hopefully you already know that, and you know that you have a premium price because you have a premium offer, not just because you sourced poorly. Ultimately, a big price disadvantage, again, I can observe that through search query performance, is only going to matter if you also have if your relative conversion rate is poor, like in the negative, right? Zero or negative. If you have a positive conversion rate, you can get away with some price disparity, right? So there's a balance in each of these. Review quality and volume, it matters more in some niches than others. General practice, keep the reviews coming in. Don't artificially inflate those. Sometimes I know some of the things that we observe with Deep M clients is that we can see from week to week. It's like, oh, this particular week, a one of your competitors just out optimize you on star rating and review count because they suddenly just got 200 5-star reviews, in the last week. Authentic? I doubt it. But we can see it at least. And it's like, I don't understand why I lost rank or why they're beating me on this. We can see it, right? So that's one of the advantages there. Availability and fulfillment. Hard to assess, but you've probably heard things like geolocation and your inventory runway. In other words, do I have enough inventory in FBA that will get me through, the holidays or the next 3 months or whatever? Definitely when you're ranking higher and you're moving for more velocity, that's something to pay attention to. If you've got 20 units left of something, you probably don't want to push the organic optimization, rank optimization on it because you will run out of stock. Um, we see that quite a bit. So, geolocation, warehouse proximity. If you go back in, you look to see, analyze the sales history of your customers. We don't do that at DeepM, but it is something that I would certainly recommend that it is certainly going to affect your search rank because the closer that the product is to your customer, the more likely it's going to show higher on search rank. That's kind of a proven fact. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be in every Amazon FBA warehouse, but it does mean that you need to have some kind enough inventory that you have some kind of distribution. And ideally, you're going back and analyzing and making sure what are my top 5 zip codes and what are the closest warehouses, and are those actually being supplied correctly by Amazon, or do I need to escalate a ticket to get some transfer of stock? Message optimization, last one there. So you can test different things. So there's a lot of different things in order to increase things like keyword density and optimize content fields better. You certainly, emotive language, compelling aspects, and differentiators. You certainly heard a lot more given some of the discussions regarding Rufus and Cosmo and how to optimize and, have emotive language. Ultimately, that's going to require some A/B split testing. You can do things, if Amazon is limiting you to, here's a tip. If you think that you need to have more instances of a single word in the title than what Amazon now allows, which is 2, then consider throwing in a synonym, what we call a semantic exchange word, something that essentially means the same thing, but is a completely different word. It gets past the title limitation filter that Amazon has. And so then you can have 3 instances of the same concept in the title without getting penalized on it. So that is the QR code. Can somebody scan that and just check to make sure that it pulls up still? It did an hour ago, so I want to make sure that's still there.
Hey, Brian, while we're doing that, a few questions that came in, and you decide how deep you want to go into these. But Maduri asked about ranking variations and how that is impacted on that.
What are they saying as far as ranking variations?
Well, could you provide some insights on ranking variations specifically for a jewelry product? So, bit open-ended, but see what you
I
think.
would, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure the use of the term ranking variations. Um, let me see if I can speculate on that one here. Um, let's see here.
And the QR works, by the way.
It does. Okay, good. Let me know if somebody needs to put that back up there again. The As far as ranking variations go, let's say, for instance, you have a product family, you've got multiple child variations, and within that parent product family, where the child variations are siblings of each other, there's two restrictions that it's going to occur with sponsored ads of the same ad type, like
Yeah.
sponsored ad keyword ad, for instance, as well as organic ranking. They generally won't show up on the same page for the same search term, right? And so that's part of where you can find a balance. Now, if you have two different products in your catalog and they're not under the same parent, you can get both of those on the same page for the same ad type or the same organic ranking. And so that's where some brands have actually leaned into that, and they've got five different standalone ASINs and they're all on page one. That's how they do that, is because they've got them separated. It doesn't mean that you should go in and separate your products if you are also reliant on things like consolidated star review, review count,
Yeah.
or being able to show more selection on whatever the product is, different
Okay.
color variations and size and that kind of stuff. Um, but it does, there definitely are rules as far as like how much that Amazon is going to show from the same parent product family on the same page for the same thing, whether it's organic search or it is a specific ad type.
Yeah.
I don't know
And
if that answered that question or not, if I was off base, but clarify if you want, I can go through it.
it may be a conversation to take offline, but it's why do some get more sales than others, and that there's a lot of reasons for that. But I'll say from my instance, if somebody's wants to rank an iPhone case and there's 8 different colors, why does the blue one show up? Why does the orange one show up?
Yeah.
And I think Amazon just highlights the bestseller within.
No, not necessarily. So no, that's actually where we go back to those rank signals, right?
Yeah.
The rank signal applies. If I scoot all the way back up here, that rank signal applies to every search term for each of your products.
For each variation as
Yeah,
well.
this looks different for every search term for every product you have,
Love it. Love it.
right? And your competitors. So you may be, the tallest bar chart, whatever, in your niche for a specific search term, but for a different search term, you're down here at ACE and 10. You're the weakest,
Yeah.
right? It depends on what you chose to optimize on. And so it's going to vary at the search term. That's why selecting your search terms is important. And you do that based off of things like your relative conversion rate and your benchmarks against your competitors in things like search query performance. So you can filter down. Yes, I want the high volume search term because I get more visibility, but really what I want is the sales that come from it. And if I can't rank top 10, top 5, top 2 for a search term, then what kind of traffic and what kind of sales am I actually getting?
Yeah.
Probably not that much if you're not on page one, right?
Yeah.
So you got to pick your battles.
Yeah. Great. Great. And,
um,
and
hmm.
would you say that, and we're running low on time, but when people see, let's just say their Chinese competitors, they come on the scene and instantly somehow they get into the top five, that they're just spiking a few of these rank factors. There's probably some they're terrible at, but they push hard on a few and they can propel the algorithm.
You're saying as far as like what I love that one. It's like, oh, I must have Chinese competitors. I can't do anything about it. Um, you can always do something. You can always adjust something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm answering your question, but a parallel that I see on that is I can't compete on price. Some Chinese suppliers, they always undercut me on price, so I can't compete for rank. Yes, you absolutely can.
Yeah.
You can do other things in order to lift up, in those rank signals. You can lift up the other aspects. You can improve your click-through rate, your conversion rate. You can improve your star rating. You can improve your content density. You can focus in on tighter search terms that you can get a higher rank on and maybe they're a little bit weak on or a lot weak on. Those are all opportunities for you to compensate for a weakness that you have somewhere else. That's the
Yeah.
whole point of rank signals, rank stacking, and being able to do precision optimization is to compensate for to lean into your strengths at a search term level, but also compensate for your weaknesses at the same time, right?
Yes.
Um, Tom asks, how can you improve star ranking organically? I don't know what star ranking is.
I'm guessing
Um,
the reviews.
I mean, yeah, I mean, as far as improving the star rating of your products, that's not the business I'm in, but in certain niches, your star rating, as well as your review count, as well as your review velocity, all can have different levels of influence on A9. Um, yeah, so maybe we can clarify that one,
Yeah.
Tom. Uh, did that answer your question by extension, David?
I think so. I think so. And I kind of want to highlight again, when Brian and I connected, it was so edifying because he answered some questions that I simply couldn't answer. And let's just say people on this webinar are saying, okay, for my specific niche, how do I know which rank factor, that stack that you have, which are most important for my niche? How would
Yeah.
you answer that question?
I mean, you don't. I mean, you could do some brute force. I mean, you could do your own manual observation. It is intentionally it is difficult in order to analyze that. The purpose of this rank ready checklist is to try to cover as many bases as you can
Yeah.
without having the minutia, without having the detailed analysis that you can get from DeepM, right?
Yeah.
I'm not aware of any other platform that goes to the level that we do, and I'm very proud of that. And we have a 2-year track record of killing it, for ranking. Um, but you can at least go in there for free with the checklist that you already have that I gave to you today.
Yeah.
Is you can go in and you can look at, okay, let me go through the checklist and really evaluate what are my best search terms? Where actually do I have a higher average conversion rate? Where is my price parity reasonable as opposed to grotesque?
Yeah.
Um, is my target search term, is it in my title? Where is it in my title? Where is it in the title for my top closest 10 competitors? Those kind of things you can do by yourself, right?
Yeah.
um that's not magic science or anything, but we get down at a much more tighter precision level that allows you to see from a week to week basis. And we measure currently on a week to week basis. We're actually rolling out an app that we're going to do more frequently. But when it comes to optimization, you can make a 1% optimization and it has a 10% impact relative to your competition.
Yeah.
Simply because it just happened to pass, that slight change in your title, for instance, happened to have so much of an impact that it leapfrogged a bunch of your competitors, right? We see that all the time. Uh, but at the same time, is one of your competitors can come in and do a 10% optimization and jump just in front of you, right? And it's important to know that that happened, to know how they did it and why did it happen and how do I correct it, right? And so that's kind of where having that situational awareness from week to week definitely is a huge advantage. And that's not something that's practical to do yourself manually, but using that rank ready checklist, implementing that, just going through and saying, what are my top search terms? How does it meet the criteria that we have here in the checklist in order to improve? And I assure you that even using that checklist, you will see some rank lift. Will you get to top 5 or number 1? Probably not. Um, but you can certainly, maybe double your sales. Maybe you're at 20 and you can move up to 10. Maybe you're page 5 and you can move up to page 2. There's a lot of things that you can improve simply because you didn't know you were supposed to optimize that in a certain way, right? Or you were picking too broad of a battle. Now, I am running out of time, and so I know we've got some more questions. So let me tell you as far as let me tell you a little bit more about DeepM just in my last minute here, and then we're out of here. Okay, we're not hanging around. This is the QR code if you want to scan that. That is to get like an intro or like a demo of what we're doing at DeepM to see whether it's a good fit. I will tell you right now, we are still in beta, which means we're focused in on FBA sellers that are on the Amazon US marketplace at the moment. And so that is part of the criteria. And yes, we do charge for our service. There's set up in a monthly recurring. But if you want to take a look at it and see if it's something that is too expensive or is the right fit or could phenomenally help you, then fantastic. That's your QR code right there. Or you can just go out to deepm.ai and check us out. We reverse engineer that A9 algorithm for your particular product niche. We find what those gaps are among your competitors to see where it's going to be easier or harder for you to exploit and to rank. We also look at which of your search terms for you that you have a competitive advantage or you have a competitive weakness so that you know where to focus. And we monitor that from week to week to make sure that any changes that you made, we can see how it impacts your relative strength. That, those rank signal bar chart, we can see, okay, this improved it, but you've got three other players that are just ahead of you. What do we need to do in order to beat each of them? Right. So there's a lot of precision that goes into that. I put this together. I was getting a little silly with this here. We have a leaderboard that we track internally as far as some of the biggest successes that we have in 2025, for instance. And some of these things I'm very happy with. Obviously, our clients are even more ecstatic about it. But here's just kind of a punch list of things that if these are the kind of results that you would hope to get to, you've got to do it with a much more powerful tool. I intentionally partner with people like Dave and Stello Marketing in order to take advantage of opportunity for when it comes to when I see something that works well in conjunction with the precision rank optimization. I will include that in our testing. Dave and I have definitely done a bunch of testing. We've seen some phenomenal results by combining his service with the DeepM service. I strongly encourage to have that conversation to see if that makes sense for you. But that is that's my DeepM pitch.
Hey, Ryan.
Dave,
So,
how do they find you? What's the best way to contact you?
um, the best way is you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Facebook, or dhamilton at stellomark.com.
StelloMark.com. Got it. All right. We got to go. We are past the time here. I said we're going to abrupt or we're going to end quickly. Hopefully you guys got a chance to get the QR codes. Follow up with me on LinkedIn or direct reach out to either one of us for any kind of follow-up questions, and look for workshop number 2, which we will start working on for the next phase of being able to rank better and faster on Amazon. Thanks everybody for being here. You have a